All right, so yeah, White Tiger. Where were we? So yeah,
yeah.
All right. So what do you guys think about the White Tiger?
Well, yeah, I think it'll make quite a
What is up, guys, and welcome to episode 4 of season 2 of the Nexus Podcast. I hope everyone is doing well, and yeah, we're happy to be here to discuss all things Set 4, really. Pre-releases starting from this weekend, so no better time. But yeah, let's do our normal hellos. I'm going to go diagonally today. I'm going to say, how you doing, Harry?
not bad, yeah.
Little curveball there, little curveball.
Yeah, I know, it took me unexpected. But yeah, the last pod was my birthday. I've got a nice couple birthday cards here. My parents were obsessed with like AI generated alt versions of me. The AI obsession runs in the family, clearly.
That's
But
hilarious.
yeah, obviously we had Caleb on last time. It was a very nice birthday present. Me and Karen were up all night with him chatting. So yeah, big shout out to him again. Was brilliant having him on and in the Discord now as
I
well.
think it was like 2 a.m. our time, man. It was like 7 hours extra he stayed on or whatever. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, you guys were
Yeah,
long.
it was-
I popped in a few times and you were just still chatting away. I was like, crazy. It's cool.
How
Cool
could
to
we
see,
not?
though. Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
But yeah, good,
Pleasure to
good
have the guy.
otherwise.
What a fella. What about you?
sure.
What about you, Emmy? How you feeling?
I'm good. I was just still digesting the AI versions of Harry. But I'm looking forward to this weekend. We're going to the pre-release together, you and I, Josh, and I think Carlo
Yep.
and some other folks are coming. So I'm literally just reading the cards, just making sure I actually read the cards. And there were a couple of cards that I read for the second, third time, and I was like, oh, okay, actually, that does that as well. So really excited for Saturday, and yeah, I'm good. I went to locals, classic final with Kieran that I lost, playing a nice Enoch pile. That was really fun. Last send off for set 3. But yeah, doing pretty well. How about you, Kieran?
Yeah, good. I think Carlo's trying to persuade me to hop in his car and come on Saturday.
Yes.
He's not doing a great job right now, but we'll see. But yeah, so maybe we'll see about that. But yeah, we had locals. We'll probably fire another locals, just like the final send off for set 3. Be a bit of a smaller community, obviously, because the pre-release is alive. But yeah, locals was really interesting last weekend. I played Smag as usual. Emmy, as you said, played Enoch Mandala Pile. I was sat next to his game against Kian, round 2. Kian had no idea what was going on until it was too late, and then the Mandala did his thing, and it was over. And yeah, those game 1s last long with Mandala. They do last long. But yeah, it was good to see, and we only had 1 crush player, which was a bit unusual for Croydon locals. Usually there's 2 or 3. But you gotta watch out. But yeah, I'm good. What about you, Josh?
Sounds like a fun place. But yeah, no, I had a good time. We had the launch of Dragon Ball Fusion Worlds this weekend in Fanboy, and I came second in the starter deck pre-release tournament. My teammate came first. We basically split the prizing when we got there and just had a fun game rather than the pressure. We were both playing degenerate Freezer. Freezer's the best deck. It's super degenerate.
What was the pricing like for the first and second at the event?
It was just like a winner card, like a gold foil Goku card, like 100 quid's worth. already sold, so that was good.
I remember when the winner Seaworm was going for like $60 at launch, or $60 or $70. That thing is like $2 now.
Yeah, it was
I remember
it was
those times.
short lived. It was short. I held on to it. I was like, yeah, it's gonna go up in price for sure. And I was like, but yeah, anyway. But yeah, no, had a good time with the Dragon Ball locals. And yeah, just getting on with getting on really. Did a bit of testing with Battle Spirits, with the boys, and just looking forward to Wolverhampton. Should be a fun time. And we'll actually get to discussing the prizing that's been announced for that soon, today. But we will move on immediately to our sort of set 4 meta predictions. Basically, we'll discuss like the power level of all of the big boys in the set. So yeah, as the title suggested at the start, the Hydra shaped elephant in the room. Everyone's talking about how good this card is. Anyone wanna start off the conversation? Talk about how good or bad this card could be. Well, it's not bad, obviously, but how good this card is.
I don't mind starting some stuff off.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I think like it's the talked about deck, right? Like it's got the same popularity as Gale. Not comparing it to Gale, some people think I'm comparing it, but it reminds me of that popularity. It's the most hyped deck. I think it's going to be the most played deck with Ira going into the preseason. But I mean, yeah, something has to be said for like a raid 2, so 3 attacks, double symbol on attack, pop a thing on the opponent's board, mill them for cost, and you can cheat it out really early, right?
And it's only a 7 cost.
Yeah, it's one of the more cheaper ascends as well, which is kind of even more interesting. But I think a lot of the discussion around the card that we've kind of seen was maybe people not liking the direction of what the card kind of promotes, where there are going to be games where you probably do get killed on turn 3 or turn 4 by this card coming down really early. And people are believing that the counterplay isn't much there because, this card is also in an archetype where they have access to the Seabed Lighthouse, preventing you from using spells unless you have that same symbol on the field. So not every deck can just Dream Bomb from hand or Deadly Balance from hand, and if you set Dream Bomb in the burst zone, you're still taking that 2 damage to even proc it. So I think it's the counterplay we're seeing a lot of discussion around and maybe lack of. Not sure what your guys' opinion is of the blue Hydra boy.
It's for me, it's exactly that, like the lack of counterplay, because the way the main effect is worded is just frustrating, because it says your opponent selects one of their spirits, then discard the number of cards from the top, and then destroy that spirit. So we've talked about, I think last week with Caleb as well, the Meduk argument of like, oh, you can stop it. Well, actually, yeah, you take a life, but you still mill 8. So if you have like a couple of extra life, and you can afford it, you can just mill your opponent and then pass and win the game still. So adding on the fact that Meduk is quite expensive, it's really hard to figure out some counterplays. I think we have a couple of things that we have discussed, and I'm not gonna say some of them because they're not mine. But one thing, like I think in testing, the thing that gets closest to okay, I'm okay with this counterplay for me is having on board the green X rare, the 3 cost. Blowing up that and then summoning a 5 cost that can deal with Hydra. So Hilder or a Valkyrie Mist. So Hydra being 7 is the cheapest one, but also is a target for Valkyrie Mist. So yeah, a lot of that being center of the conversation for Hydra, but also honestly, I don't know if I'm more concerned about Hydra, Tiger, or Ira. I mean, they're all three equally very dangerous. I don't know, Harry. Do you have any other thoughts on Hydra?
Yeah, I think while the power levels are all very sort of comparable, the thing that seems to have provoked the most frustration when it comes to Hydra is just that unification of winning through damage as well as milling. The others do still win by playing a conventional game, and to that end, you can just play a normal game of Battle Spirits. Like Mill has up until this point been a very extraneous win condition to where you have to build your deck entirely around it and not play the damage game at all. So Mandala was good in the set 3 environment, for example, but that's a deck where you're just looking to never attack, combo it out, requires so much setup. Similarly, Allegro last format was a good card, but again, required a lot of setup. And as one person mentioned in the WhatsApp group, it's like those cards are then all combined into one, plus raid 2, so it can attack 3 times. The frog, the TP4 frog kind of just takes it over the top as well, to where if they don't respond to the frogs as they come down suddenly, you're just milling them 10, 15 sometimes per swing, which is pretty egregious. So yeah, I think there will be ways around it, and at least as time goes on, these sort of power crept decks will compete against each other in some ways. Like red is probably well suited to, killing blues as nexuses to make it harder for them to get out the Hydra safely. And then if you have a way around the Hydra, then you should be pretty good. Similarly, as you mentioned, Frost Tiger is pretty well equipped to deal with both. So there are ways around it, but yeah, it's a difficult adjustment, I think, for a lot of people at the moment. Yeah, definitely a big change of pace, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean,
Josh, you literally said you've been testing set 4, right? So I don't know
yeah,
if you've come across the testing this, or have you got strong views about it?
yeah. I mean, I think that Hydra does a lot for how early it can be played. I mean, let's put the facts together, right? You've got Nexus, the main Nexus of the archetype Labyrinth, which allows you to ascend without having an ascend target on the field. You also ramp when you play aberrations, which are the main sort of core of the deck as far as spirits go. You can also tailor your deck to be cheap. Like there are aberrations that cost 1, therefore allowing you to ramp whilst building your reduction. The reality is that you can play Hydra with 3 cores on it on turn 3 or 4, and that kind of power level early is very difficult for a lot of strategies to deal with, simply because it's so early in the game. Don't get me wrong, like Tiger can come out early with Dimensional Rift and the Nexus, but yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is that the game hasn't been as. I mean, we had obviously the dinos, we had Gigano at full power, which had a similar sort of level of obnoxiousness where it could bring out Gigano on turn 3 or 4 and then therefore just lock your board out, killing stuff every turn guaranteed because it's a massive body. But in a way, this is worse because of like you guys have mentioned. There's multiple effects. There's milling. There's destruction. There's 2 damage on hits. It's I think it's a case. I think there might be a bit of anger in the community due to the game, like sort of changing in its pace so dramatically with Hydra. But at the same time, it's a time to adapt your strategy and start playing at a higher pace. Like you've said a lot, Kieran. A lot of games game 1 games last a majority of the 60-minute timer limit. So the reality is that maybe the Bandai are looking to speed up the games to make best of threes more viable within that 60-minute period. So I mean, there's definitely lots of flip sides to it, and I just hope that instead of complaints, people use that energy to try and adapt and You know,
I guess the fact that it's all centralized around one card as well. Like, obviously, blue is the newest color. It was sort of viable-ish as a deck, but not really. It was more like the best blue cards would be played in non-blue decks, similar to when green first came out, and it was like it wasn't really its own thing all that much, but got teched into other places. And now suddenly you've got this incredibly powerful card, which then just centralizes its whole archetype around it. Like, Tiger's strong, but Control White was already a strong deck. Similarly, you know, Ira's strong, but red was already a really strong color.
Yeah, it's definitely like, to put it lightly, a booster shot into the arm of blue in order for it to catch up with the rest of the meta, I think. Because let's be honest, I mean, Mandala, obviously a great card in the Smile deck, but blue really didn't have much legs in the previous meta.
Much gas.
Yeah.
Blue was a worse place for Mandala, oddly.
Yeah, exactly. That's the irony of it. Yeah.
It's what Harry said, right? Where blue now is what green was when green came out, and then green became more viable when it got this really insane looking 10 cost, right? Feng Wang. Which at the time was insane, and then people realized there's a lot of counterplay, and Feng Wang kind of fell a little bit short. But one thing I do want to say about Hydra, and I think Hydra and Ira, they're the two key cards of the set. I think we've said that plenty of times already. But one thing that they both kind of promote is very strong wind destruction effects. With Ira, it blows up the whole board. They don't get to pick which to blow up. With Hydra, you get to pick what you want to blow up. I don't know if that's going to maybe help like things like Nemesis maybe see a bit more play, you know, cards with very strong like wind destruction effects and abusable, or like a Falong, for example. You know, imagine a Falong getting popped and removing 3 cores from a Hydra that's raided, for example. So I think it's what Josh said as well about kind of adaptability, but I don't know what you want to add on to that, Emmy?
I just want to ask, in terms of like meta, like, do we think then from already the preseason, are we gonna see people trying to really experiment and like push the Hydra deck to, you know, like its limits, let's say, or will we see like people just gearing up to beat Hydra because it's, you know, clearly a threat, and if you're not ready, you're just probably gonna lose? And an additional follow-up question to that is that, do you guys feel like it's gonna be similar to the Highlands? You know, because Kieran mentioned green. Is it gonna be a situation similar to Highlands? If not, what's different in terms of like, you know, being slightly high rolly as well? I'm curious to.
Personally, for me, I feel like, I mean, there is like a fair comparison between the green archetype and blue archetype. But the reality is that Hydra is a lot stronger than Feng Huang due to speed. Like, the cards are both extremely strong, but the speed that you can get Hydra out compared to the 10 cost it's not even comparable. And it's not, the deck isn't really Nexus reliant either. Don't get me wrong, you need it for raid, but you don't need Labyrinth in order to, maybe you do to rush the Hydra. But the Hydra's such a good card that it's very versatile. Like, I feel like you can play Hydra Rush where you high roll and you aim just to kill immediately, but it's also good enough to put into like a mid-range setting where you're setting up more and you're setting up your opponent to basically gain maximum value rather than just rushing. And also if you taking a sort of mid-range strategy for Hydra, you can just pivot and go really fast if you hit the high roll. So I think people will try and counter Hydra, but I think also it's going to be hard to just counter Hydra unless everyone's going for the same route, because, you know, I don't think you have to play Hydra in a rush sort of setting for it to be optimal. Like, you can play it many ways.
Yeah, part of the issue for the preseason events as well is going to be getting the TP4 frog in time for it, as it's a bit different to Highlands and Fable Beast in that, you know, there were people at the Utrecht Pro Tour like I think Cosmic had like cases of set 2 with him in his suitcase, right? And like Genbu is obviously an X rare in that set. So it's just a matter of opening enough packs until you get it, whereas the tournament pack ones are a bit different. We haven't really seen this sort of dependency on a card since Axe Biter, probably. Certainly, if it's like, okay, well, I mean, maybe they designed it this way, or it's like everyone's got a.
Do we have a picture of it? So or maybe I'll just put it on screen for people to know what we're talking about, because it's not on bssdb.dev. But
I mean, it's on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
If you go to Facebook.
Yeah.
Well, I've got an image of the thing, so
Cool.
so just keep discussing it. It'll just appear on the screen.
But yeah, for speech's sake, it's a forecast aberration with a level 1 effect of when one of your spirits with Ascend, I think, attacks mill your opponent 5. Which obviously is very important for the Hydra deck. Really pushes it beyond again in terms of ways to play around it. I've tried plenty of strategies that are able to play around base Hydra, but then when you're adding an unconditional mill 5 per copy of the card on top of that, it suddenly makes it very difficult to not get decked out. So yeah, in terms of the launch events, as it were, it's really just going to be a lot of people trying to scrounge for those cards straight away. So some people, I think, will be more inclined to do what the Fable Beast players did in the Highland instance and build a sort of counter strategy. Fable Beast might actually be a really good choice for the event as well. You do have double damage with Genbu synergy there.
Yeah,
Purple is also a bit of a sleeper there, so it isn't like
I've
completely
tested.
hopeless.
I've tested Fabled Beast a bit, and yeah, it's very similar to how it was before. It plays very well into white as expected, and yeah, I mean, if you're worried about the Tiger, I think yellow's definitely a good shout. That new Fabled Beast 5 cost is unreal. You know, the name eludes me right now, but when it swings or blocks, you choose a card. You basically have a lightning arrow on swing or block. Which is
Hundun's
ridiculous.
insane. Like,
And
he's so good.
And he's
simple.
5 cost free reduction. Yeah, it's really powerful.
One thing I think, like, you know, we're talking about these ace monsters, and you know, we kind of mentioned about, you know, Feng Wang and Genbu from last set, but like, you know, if we're looking at Battle Spirits at its core, you know, from the original game, but also the Japanese version, it is that kind of typical game where your deck is meant to be built around your boss monster, essentially. You know, you pick your boss monster and you build your deck downwards, kind of thing, not from
absolutely,
way up. And recently, like, the bosses in this game have been, I mean, set 3 was a massive jump in spike, you know, with Feng Wang and Genbu, I would say. Like, those were the more, even Mandala, he was like a boss in his own kind of style deck, right? As we could, you know, as we talked about, like, Mandala was better, and well, Mandala's worst color was blue, but he was like this mill boss essentially. And I mean, if you look at the world's artwork, he looks like a boss.
He does.
But I think it's so good. But I think maybe like with, and you know, we're gonna talk about set 5 later as well. But you can really see they're trying to push like your ace monster, your main card as kind of like the gameplay, and we're seeing that a lot with the whole double symbol thing.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. That's kind of what sells in the TCG world. You know, like as players, a lot of competitive players are very hyped by powerful cards. Don't get me wrong. There's been powerful cards in the previous sets, but they're more sort of tunnel visioning now, I feel like, and they're being like, right, this is the card that you need to win the game with, you know? Whereas before now, it's been a bit more open, like, do you know what I mean? Like, none of the cards strictly, you've had to be like, right, Elk is my main boss. I have to play my deck into him, or, you know, maybe Dyna's kind of that way. But, you know, in reality now, it's like, if you're playing red, you're playing Ira, because that is going to get you your board wipe. That is going to get you that's going to recoup your hand after you've played 10 Star Dragons, or, you know, Hydra, which we don't have to keep talking about it, but it's insane. Harry made a good point earlier that Tiger necessarily isn't as a prominent figure because white control's already really good anyway. But it just adds to an already good deck. But do you think that the Tiger puts maybe white control to the top of the stratosphere as far as, you know, because in reality, having Dream Bomb and stuff like that is very, very good in this meta. What do you guys think about white in general as its kind of position in this meta? So what do you think of the Tiger?
I think it will be the quickest adjustment, playstyle wise, compared to the new double damages. Like, again, white control has always been good. You just sort of chuck the Tigers in. It works with Noman City. It works with everything else. It doesn't really change the deck overall that much. Hydra doesn't. Like, there are people who have played Star Dragons quite extensively, but for the most part, people prefer like good stuff red, and I think that's probably still the case going into set 4. Blazing Boar has a lot of good tic tacs with it going into the new set. You can ascend into Ira over it. You can toolbox quite a lot with it. So there's probably quite a lot of thought that goes into that deck. Obviously, Hydra is entirely new.
Do you think people will be going more the Star Dragons route, or do you think there's still room for like the mid-rangey Dino Man kind of that kind of build?
The mid-rangey one is definitely fine, yeah. But I think Big Bang actually gets quite a huge glow up now if you're dealing with double damage, and you're probably healing off Nova quite a lot. So, yeah, I mean, it's probably the most viable Big Bang as a card has been since, the post-launch event meta where it was incredibly aggro-y for a bit.
There's way to ascend. There's way to ascend for free as well, isn't there? With Sigi now, so it's a good spot definitely for Star Dragons.
Emmy, you were saying at locals, you're telling me like you've seen when Star Dragons does kind of click in set 4, it really goes off.
I mean, I don't know what you guys feel, but I still feel Hydra dominates against red. Obviously, I haven't tested like infinite amounts of games in that matchup, but I think Hydra is the strongest between Ira and Hydra, and the Tiger kind of sort of sits as a sort of like the counter for both of them, really. That's just my views, but what do you guys think?
I don't know. Like, I think personally, I don't think I have enough testing to say like confidently like where's the split on the win rate. But it also depends on the way the Hydra is built and played. Because I don't remember if it was just Kieran or you just saying you can't just expect to just drop a Hydra and win, even though at times you might end up, cheating out a win like that. I think you need to kind of build your game plan in a way where your Hydra like can comfortably come down, and you know that it's gonna survive without unloading your hand in like 4 turns and having no response if you lose it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to be prepared for it to be just bounced back to your hand and then repeat the process
especially
next
against
turn.
red. Like if you happen to find the Nexus and Hydra, like if they blow up your Nexus and they draw one of the 3 Dream Bomb that they will have in their deck, then you just lose, right? You probably lose. I think red.
If you're built strictly into like high roll, kill as quickly as possible, then yeah. But obviously you can have contingency plans with the obvious one, Ice Shield, Dream Bomb of your own. This kind
of course,
thing.
yeah. But yeah, if you like really just try to unload your hand and go Hydra or nothing, I don't know. I think you can go in a more like tempo plays that see your Hydra coming down, mid game, where actually has much more value because probably your opponent has a more established board with higher cost cards, and you actually do more damage.
Yeah, I think with Hydra, it's like the trick to it is kind of weighing up if you're in it, because if you can look at the board, look at how many cores they have available to them. Sometimes you can just see like this is I've got Fatal here, but it's obviously gauging that. Maybe that's one of the strategies is trapping Hydra players into trying to go Fatal and then clapping back when they don't necessarily have the answer. I mean, that would be where the skill ceiling side of it comes in, I'd say. Go on, Kieran.
There There is another really big similarity between green and blue, and that's that they both are like the colors with no built-in hand advantage. And like we saw, even in set 3, green didn't get hand advantage. They just got a really, really insane high roll strategy at the time. And it's kind of deja vu with blue. Blue barely got any card advantage besides like pollen and whatnot. But
They're kind
they've
of
got a very insanely strong high roll strategy, right?
yeah, they're kind of focusing on recursion. I mean, if you think about it with green, they made such a big deal about Tokiwa from the lore set. That's obviously a very huge component to green strategies, like using Volcanic Canyon to get 2 draws, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. And blue seems to be going the way of recurring your nexuses is kind of the strategy. So it's.
But there's that argument where once you deal with the Hydras, I've had games in testing where I've beaten Hydra and they've got 6 nexuses or 5 nexuses, and it's well, you've got no hand size. Go ahead, those nexuses don't become advantage; they just kind of sit there. But I think it is just kind of, it's Hydra going to go bro some games, and you're going to get absolutely clapped. But then I look forward to seeing what people are going to bring as counterplay. That's all I can say, really.
Yeah, I do think what was said earlier about the Bark Maiden into Valkyrie Mist, that sounds really cute, to be fair. I quite like that. Or Hilda even is a very sweet little tech.
Also, just in terms of the limited time and stuff, I think people are just going to go with what they vibe with overall.
Yeah.
There isn't going to be an objective metric of what the strongest is. Battle Spirits metas tend to develop over time, and so yeah, people are just going to show up with whatever they feel like showing up with, and we'll see how it goes.
People will likely play Hydra if they can get their hands on it, because it's the best.
It's the easiest and looks the best from first glance, kind of like what we always thought from other sets. But I think one thing to note, by the way, is that Oceania and LATAM, they have their pre-launches a week before America and Europe, so we'll get some results from those 2 places.
I didn't know
first.
that, actually.
Yeah, that was on the 23rd, ours is on the 30th. So we'll get those 2 first, and then it'll kind of, it's our turn. So we will be able to talk about their results on the podcast before the
nice NetDeck City. Let's go, boys.
Let's go. But I guess talking about pre-seasons, I guess we got a bit of pre-season news, right?
Yeah, we actually do. Let's go to our special screen, and we can talk about the pre-season Grand Tour prizing.
I forgot they changed it to Grand Tour.
So, well, I mean, let's get straight to it, I guess. They have removed the money prizing from Grand Tours. Discuss.
Well, one thing I'll defend them to just yet is that it's this specific Grand Tour. This is the pre-season. We don't know what the actual Grand Tours are going to I do agree. I think it has gone from Grand Tours altogether.
Well, no, I mean, if you check on their roadmap, YouTube, it actually confirms that the prizing it will sort of mirror what we're seeing in this pre-season Grand Open.
Yeah, it's a profess that they have committed in the video with cash pricing. So,
we'll see. But there is a replacement, right, for caches in the prizes now, right, Josh?
Yeah, it's up on screen right now. You can see it. For the top 4 places, they will be given £4,000 or $4,000, sorry,
dollars
to travel to their respective Pro Tours. Now, overkill much? For example, I mean, we don't know where the Pro Tours will be. Maybe they'll all be in America, and then in that case, it would be kind of helpful for the players. But $4,000 seems a bit much, and with only 4 players getting the prize, it's kind of a bit thin, I'd say. I mean, my personal opinion is they could cut it in half or even into quarters, and increase the amount of players getting a payout. Because frankly, I didn't spend $4,000 for the whole year of traveling, and I went to America twice. personally. But I don't know what you guys think about the whole top four.
If it's just for one event, then that's really scummy because they know that no one's gonna spend that much within reason. So it's just pretty deliberate, I think, if it's just for one event. But if it's for like you can spread it out across different events, then fine.
I doubt it. This is really classic Bandai, right? Like announce something but no details to go with it.
I don't think it will be
Yeah.
across multiple events, because what if, you don't qualify to the next one? Then.
But there'll be like grand tours and stuff like that you might want to attend, or
Oh, you
things
say like all the other. Okay, so it's not.
I think they might do it for you.
Fest.
Like I think they might just book it for you, to be honest, and like they'll book your come to the Pro Fest, like the next one that's upcoming that you qualified for, and then that's it. Like, bye voucher you got. Like, if you spend it all.
So with that in mind, if that's how it is, I mean, I hate to be negative, but do you think they're kind of conning the player base by saying £4,000 travel when the reality is, say what we qualified and got this hotel voucher and our tournament was in Amsterdam, it wouldn't even cost close to, it would be around $400. Therefore, they're kind of just like, where's that redundant prize money going? For me, it just seems a bit unfair on the player base.
Yeah, but there's no point speculating until we don't have any.
It is, yeah.
I mean, we kind of do have the details in black and white on the screen right there. It says 4,000 travel holiday vouchers to attend Pro Fest, which would
attend Pro Fest. Yeah, so
which would indicate one tournament
event,
which is terrible. Again, like if that is the case, it's really, really bad.
I mean, let's be real. Like, it's hard not to think it is the case, with it being in black and white right there. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna say that it's gospel that is what it is, but it literally says it there on the screen right now. So I think it's.
I think.
Go on, Kieran.
I think like with this again, it's just typical like announce this big thing that everyone's been waiting to hear, and then like lack of details, and it's very like frustrating for players alike, obviously, because this just kind of sucks to see. But I think like the bigger criticism I would also have is like, the biggest problem last year was that it wasn't viable for everyone to travel all the way to like to the States for a pro tour or going across continent, and the money they had won from like, because if you won, you got 7K, you didn't need the help funding to get there. If you got like if you got top 4, you didn't really need the help. The people that like the people that more dropped out were the people who got like top 16, top 32, and they just couldn't justify going to the States. Mm-hmm. This whole travel voucher stuff doesn't help those people. It doesn't change anything. If anything, it's worse for those people, because at least before you got like $250, $500 to kind of maybe help.
Yeah, subsidizes the cost of playing the tournament. I think the issue here is, don't get me wrong, I don't mind the travel vouchers because it makes sense. We spend money to get to these tournaments, but top 4 is just ridiculous with a 4K budget. Like, you could easily split that 16,000 and give 1,000 to each of the top 16 players. You could even give $500 to the top 32 players, and it would still be a good sort of, it would be a good spread, a decent amount of money, which would definitely contribute to most of the flight.
I just hate how this is like. I hate how if you get top 8, so if you go top 8 and you lose in top 8, you walk away with the exact same pricing as you would have got in top 16.
Yeah, I mean one thing that's we can, instead of just being fully negative about the situation, we have the opportunity here, because it's a pre-season grand tour. We could complain to Bandai. We as a community, we could say, look, this isn't acceptable. The 4,000 could be spread between players, and they could change what happens in the Grand Opens. You know, it's not actually set in stone that this is the exact format for the Grand Opens, just the preseason so far. So maybe it can change, but I think it needs to change, really, in my opinion.
Yeah, if it's just for the preseason one, then fine, that's okay. Because doing well at launch event didn't qualify you for the Pro Tour, so fine, okay, cool. But like a lot of players have quit already just based on this announcement. A bunch of others are waiting to see what the Pro Fest pricing is before deciding whether they're gonna quit or not. And a lot of people are waiting to see the nature of the travel vouchers, i.e. being able to use it for multiple events to decide if they're going to play it or not. If it's just top 4 wins 4K, which again is an obscene amount to give to someone for traveling, that's intentionally done knowing that they aren't going to spend that much, because where else is the money going to go? It's going to go back to them. Like, especially if they choose for you as well. Like, we were discussing in our group chat and we're like, well, okay, maybe we just get the biggest accommodation possible to try to host as many of us as possible. But the elimination of choice for the individual is really bad. Like, again, we aren't that concerned about the money, but there are, practical logistics in place. Like, I went to every EU event last year. There's no way that's feasible now.
No, it's definitely not.
Yeah.
It's same for me. There's just no way that I can afford, daily household costs as well as going on holiday like every other month. It's not realistic for anyone.
The UK is officially in a recession now, right? So, like cost of living, pricing. I think the one thing I'm going to say, try and kind of spin it a little bit, like there is some good that's come from this whole pricing announcement. I mean, we finally get foil flood streams now in the finalist packs. I'm just saying, we do.
All right. Let's look a bit down the list and see if we can get anything.
I think
more positive.
just to close that, I think it's important to give feedback. I wouldn't focus on already complaining when the season hasn't started yet. I think all this are fair points.
Wow, that flood stream does look lovely. Sorry. Carry on.
That's okay. No, just wrapping up that it's just it's important to give feedback. So, if you if you're still watching, let us know in the comments. What would what would be your feedback on the pricing? How would you suggest the best way is to perhaps rethink it for the Grand Opens if this is not a great way to go about it, and maybe we can all collectively submit this feedback to
yeah, I mean, we have paths of communication with the devs and some of the main organizers of organized play for Bandai, so it's something we can definitely facilitate. I just think a lot of us are very passionate about the game. Us four definitely very passionate. We do this podcast because we enjoy the game. We love the community that's created. And the last thing we want to see is for the game just to die out. I think we don't necessarily have the power to change things, but we definitely have a voice. And I think if anyone else wants to, it feels the same way as us, that we should definitely try and push for change to at least share out the prize money for the travel for Grand Opens, just to make it more sort of viable for the player base in general. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. In conclusion, disappointed that the money's gone from Grand Opens, but at the same time, it could be okay if the travel vouchers are maybe not spread evenly between the top 32, but at least a different spread, so that $4,000 isn't being wasted on one player.
Yeah,
I think it also just kind of sucks because we're competing for something that you don't know anything about yet. You have no information about what's at the pro.
We're competing for the glory, Kieran. Come on, we're competing
we're competing to get an invite for an event that doesn't. We have no idea what it's even going to contain.
We're competing for the flood stream, for the elk, for the
what else are we competing for, Josh?
For the Dark Grail.
When top 4 at Wolves is the 4 of us, the fuck are we gonna do with 16 grand? We're gonna what? We're gonna buy the Taj Mahal for a day. Like, it's ridiculous. it's obviously ridiculous.
We'll get limos to the airport and all that kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, but just travel and hotel. It doesn't even include food and stuff like that.
No,
right?
no
As far as it says on
diem,
there.
nothing like that.
So man's gonna have to eat Cheetos all day in first business class.
Let's go through the prizes quickly.
Yeah, what do we get? What do you get?
So we get a nice winner mat with the Valkyries, looking really fly.
Good.
That mat also looks signed by the artist as well, which is very cool.
Yeah,
The mats are gorgeous.
there's the top 32 mat's kind of racy, really. It looks like a Seagworm giving a little love bite
for the box, right? Well, for the release.
Yeah, for the winners Ira. It's the same art. It looks really good on the map.
kind of sensual. Very, very cool. We got the
giving a little hickey.
yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. That's what it's like. She's getting a little neck kiss from Seagworm. I don't know how actually pleasant that would be.
Like Emmy's dream.
We got the we got the classic Soul Core. We got the classic deck box that is made for Japanese size cards.
Yes.
Profest invite. $4,000 to travel, and then we have I think it's Ira alt art, which looks very cool.
You get two.
You get
That's
two.
an upgrade.
Yeah. You get 2 Ira cards.
For winning.
And
only one brick. That's
one
my
brick.
main.
That's normal for grand opens, I will say.
Yeah, but
It's
that's
still
the thing
wrong,
that
but yeah.
annoys me the most. Like, other than the money, like, I don't care. I care about why do I win a
the mat's
season.
the mat's only top 16, yeah. So like before. So it's
Yeah.
pretty much the structure's unchanged other than the finances involved.
Invite is still top 32, so that's the primary goal for people.
Yep.
But you can now get Profess invites by winning online events and soon to be revealed local events.
That is correct, yeah.
And then there's some good judge cards as well.
Yeah, there's some good judge cards. They are still looking for judges. If people are interested, go sign up to the Bandai Judge Discord. Get your test in, get a little bit of studying on the go.
I'll leave a link.
But yeah, all in all, not a good start, Bandai. I stand by what I said previously. You know, I really feel like they needed to retain a decent level of prizing. Being totally honest, I've got friends that were going to join the game and are very put off already by the kind of lack of enthusiasm with the prizing that we've been given. So, I mean, fingers crossed that things can be turned around. And if we can do anything as a podcast for the community, we will try to make your voice heard. So please comment below. Maybe we'll get some kind of petition going or something. I've done this kind of thing before with the online battles. Did a little questionnaire for Bandai, and they were receptive to it. So I don't see why we can't do it again. But yeah, any final thoughts on this before we move on? We got one last little thing to talk about.
Yeah. No, I insist.
I was just gonna add quickly that a thing that's appealing about Battle Spirits from the outside is that it's quite a cheap game to get into. Obviously, for us playing it, that's quite difficult. But if you look at the other Bandai games like One Piece, Digimon, Dragon Ball, they're much more lucrative. The tournaments are much bigger, but they're much more expensive to get into. It's the same with things like Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon is very cheap to get into by comparison. So I think when it comes to a game like Battle Spirits, Bandai needs to understand where it positions itself relative to the other games as well. Like, Battle Spirits is never going to be that game where you have 1,000 people tournaments and the cards go for a jillion pounds. But it is unique in that it's a game that's easy to get into that maybe isn't as deep as a game like Pokemon, which also now has increased its cash pricing, funnily enough. We know of people who are already seconding from Battle Spirits to Pokemon because it's also cheap to get into. And as Josh said, I know plenty of people who I was going to get into Battle Spirits. Like, Jamie didn't play card games and stuff. We got him into it. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame, obviously, but we'll see. We'll see how things pan out, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, only time will tell. Fortunately, there's a lot of games coming out. A lot of people are, looking elsewhere at this moment. However, things can turn around, and like I said, we, as a podcast, we really support this game. We really want it to succeed, and we're going to do our best to do that. So, but yeah, a bit of a shame, but we will still all be at the preseason Grand Tour, regardless of the pricing that's offered. So. That's
I think,
not.
Kieran had some closing thoughts as well.
Yeah, he did.
I like we were wrapping.
Not anything that really hasn't been said. I think like we have seen, as you said, as someone has said, some players have expressed their desire to stop playing the game, which I think is stupid, by the way. Like, I think if you're like not gonna play, if you see this and you're like, wah, 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 I'm quitting the game, cool, good for you. But like, Battle Spirits is a game where, like, honestly, you can just pick it when your regional. Okay, here's some advice for those people: when the regional is coming closer, stop playing the game for a month. Get your invite, go to your Pro Fest, qualify for Worlds, and forget about the game for the rest of the year. That's what you do. You don't have to stop playing the whole game forever just because of that. You just don't bang it out as hard. But the people who are quitting are the people who are playing it for like 6 hours a day as a job and they're burnt out. So yeah,
It's true, but also, like, again, it was nice to go to every event last year. Like, if I qualified for Worlds, I mean, I wasn't able to go to PT1 anyway, but it would have still been nice to have had incentive to go to the other Grand Opens and things like that, which there was. So, obviously from Bandai's point of view, like, they don't have to invest anywhere near as much in terms of the sort of prize pools for those events, but like, as you say, like, the way to go about the world season now is just rush Worlds invite and then stop, basically.
I do agree. There's less reason to go to multiple Grand Tours, but I guess we need to see the format. Like, is there still going to be 2 per region? Two per continent kind of thing. I guess we have to kind of wait and see for that.
I would, if I'd qualified for Pro Tour, I would definitely find it hard to justify going to a second tournament. If it was, say, in Italy or something, it would be difficult for me to take the time off work and stuff when I already have what I kind of need from the tournament. But there you go. Maybe we'll see what happens. Maybe they will. Like I say, this is only the pre-season Grand Tour, so maybe there might be changes when it comes to Grand Tour. But for now, let's just keep an open mind. But yeah, so that's about it for the new pricing. We have had some spoilers from the distribution. Some spoilers from the distribution notes for Set 5. Kieran, do you want to take us through what's been kind of getting hyped up in the community?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot going on. I think a lot of this kind of all happened kind of post Worlds. We've got the full set release for set list for Set 4. Organized play in the next year, and there was also, as he just said, like, there was a little distribution preview leak, whatever you want to call it, regarding Set 5. So we do have some information about what to expect from Set 5. So the first thing is that Set 5, so it's called Inverted World Chronicles: Strangers in the Sky. What a name. And it kind of begins the next, like, story arc. Right now we've been kind of focused on Seaworm for the longest time, for the last 4 sets, and that kind of storyline. But we're going to have a new main character, and that main character is actually going to be designed by a very famous Digimon artist, Kenji Watanabe. So that's kind of cool. A little bit of a Digimon kind of crossover there. I think the next story is meant to be taking place 300 years after the current story, so like a time skip, whatever. So that's kind of cool. And people are talking about the lore. What's actually happening in the next set? So we did get a little reveal. It's a massive long blurb, but like the kind of short summary of it is that we are confirmed to be getting double color cards, and we actually know the pairings of the double color cards already. So red and purple is one of the pairings. Purple and yellow. Yellow and white. White and green. Green and blue. And blue and red. Those are the 6 kind of double color pairings that's going to be in the set. So if your favorite colors are any of those 2 colors, you should be very excited. If it's not, you might have to pick up a new color. But that's really interesting. We've seen from some of the Evangelion cards that they have double cost, triple cost reduction already. But these are like proper double color cards, like 2 colors in 1 card. So that's kind of cool. And we're going to be getting a new. So in the Japanese version of the game, they have a mechanic I think called Rush. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Don't hurt me, Japanese players. And Rush is a mechanic where I think in this version it's called Chain, or it's meant to be called Chain in English. But Rush is a mechanic where so when you play a card with Rush, if you have the other pairing color on the field, you get a bonus ability. So it's really encouraging you to play multiple colors. It's really cool. We've seen like with Smag, like that kind of stuff kind of exists in our game already. But that's cool. They're really pushing it off. They have announced a new keyword called Astral, which is it works the same way like flying from Magic the Gathering, where cards with Astral cannot be blocked unless it's by another card with Astral. In the text, they really hinted that the only cards that are going to have Astral are your new big bosses, which is kind of what we talked about, where the game is very focused on your ace monster. So your ace monsters are going to be unblockable unless it's against other ace monsters. So more unblockable, whether you guys are hyped for that or not, that's a discussion we'll get into in a little bit. There's going to be anniversary rares because this is going to celebrate the anniversary of the game. And there's going to be Evangelion alt arts, by the way, in set 5. Yep. So if you're an Evangelion fan, this is perfect for you because you can get alt arts of set 4, your
they're
collapse set, and
really
set
tapping into that fan base, aren't they? They're really trying to
Evangelius, a Spirits Saga, essentially.
Yeah.
making people buy 3 sets just to get all the cards, you know.
Yeah.
But I know I chucked a lot of stuff at you guys in terms of stuff, but the main TLDR is double color cards and the Astral keyword. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on hearing all that news firsthand.
I mean,
well, we can fly to the next Pro Fest by Mecha, right? We can with the Evangelion push, we'll get our own little cyber automata. There's a life-size one in Japan, right? Or is that Gundam? I think
that's Gundam, yeah.
So, yeah, that's how we'll have to travel now.
I mean, for $4,000, I'm sure you can rent it. You know.
Yeah, I'd get my own mecha wing duck made and just
there you go.
Fly on that.
I'm excited for the multicolor. That mechanic sounds really fun, and I think
they're really pushing the game at a fast rate, don't you think, Emmy? Like they're pushing forward with the mechanics very quickly. Like a lot of games that I've played previously, they'll sit on a mechanic for a whole sort of block, 10 sets. But with this, they're like maybe they're trying to play catch up with the Japanese version. I could be wrong.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? There's so many mechanics that I already have in the OG game, and I think sorry if I butcher this. I'm gonna correct myself in case. But Battle Spirit Central, which is another channel from Italy. They have been reviewing like past keywords and how would they compare when brought to Battle Spirit. So if you haven't checked it out, go check them out. And I think they did talk about this mechanic, and I was really intrigued by it. And I just like mechanics that challenge players to approach the deck building differently. I think we probably share the fact that we all like deck building. And when you don't have an incentive to like go against what like the base mechanics of the game is, which is you have the mana, which is the cores, and you need to play cards, and the unique mechanic is you get discounts from the same color symbol. So you're kind of like drawn to just play a monocolor, and essentially be more efficient that way. So with mechanics like this that really pushes you to experiment, that's what like makes me like the most excited about that set 5.
What do you think about more unblockable?
I mean, it's unblockable with a condition, which is better than just unblockable. Like we've seen it with Gambu, that it's unblockable unless like you have a vanilla. This is just gonna be another condition unblockable.
I mean, at least we're all going to have to steer our decks into these astral cards anyway, by the looks of things. So
Yeah.
we'll all have
fine.
answers to each other's answers essentially.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I wonder like how the game will evolve from a standpoint of like being more spirit heavy or spell heavy. Like it's really interesting to see like how in each set different type of cards are more or less valuable. Obviously, the spirits are the foundation, but then magic cards and nexuses we see like spikes of like how many do you actually play in your deck. And I guess commenting from a ignorant standpoint, I guess like Yu-Gi-Oh! I think is similar where you have like magic and trap cards. And from my understanding, like trap cards are not that great, but then there's some metas where they're actually really good. So I'll be interested to see how that evolves.
Yu-Gi-Oh is a different beast in that there's no resource system. The spells are generally incredibly overtuned compared to the rest of the cards. And the game is so fast that you don't even have time to set traps a lot of the time. But generally, if you do play traps, it's like 20 traps and like you're floodgating and just trying to stop them. But yeah, with the astral stuff, I definitely prefer like keyword unblockable relative to just unblockable. And to use the flying example in Magic, like there's a separate keyword called reach, which allows them to block creatures with flying without having flying themselves. I'm sure there'll be spells that will be like main flash, give something astral, and then it's like, okay, like you can quickly play around something with that. So yeah, I mean, compared to Dyna and Genbu, I think a keyword for it is fine. Hopefully there won't be double damage astrals immediately, but you never know. We'll have to wait and see. The multicolored stuff is really cool as well. I'm really down for that.
All right, so yeah, lots of exciting stuff to come, guys. And obviously we'll be covering it here on the Nexus podcast when it comes out. But that's pretty much it for this week today, guys. We're going to do question time on the round. If you could remove one card from set 4 that's coming, including promos, what would it be? Emmy.
Wow. Yeah, we haven't prepared this, by the way. So it's a
Just
tough
one
question.
card that you think, nah, I don't want that in the game.
Yeah.
Don't think too much.
Yeah, no, it's hard because like I'm generally like against ban lists and stuff like that. I think
Ban lists.
Yeah.
What about you,
remove
Kieran?
the
What about
ban.
you, Kieran? What card would you just say?
You seem ready. You seem
No, we'll come back to you.
TP full frog.
So I'm gonna say Hundun from Fable Beasts.
Yeah, that card is ridiculous, so I don't blame you.
My biggest problem with it is that, we just talked about Astro and about how with Genbu there is like counterplay where you can block with vanillas. Hundun completely removes that counterplay and is just like, I hate cards that remove counterplay, so get rid of Hundun. Also, his name's stupid as well. Get rid of him.
That card is actually wild. Like you force people to suppression, and then you're like, okay, well that card can't block for the rest of the turn, and then it's like suppression's kind of useless. I honestly, like, low-key think that card needs to be put in every deck in a sideboard. I think it's a wild, crazy card.
Yeah. When it dies, you can also go +1 in Fable Beast for whatever reason.
Spicy. Yeah, so Harry wants to get rid of Frog. What about you, Emmy?
Another blue card then. I think like Deep Walker is a sleeper card.
Yeah, Deep Walker, that is a really powerful card, yeah. Free Nexus plays.
Yeah, it makes Hydra even like more valuable because it gives you like a tempo play that has a lot of value. So maybe it's just too much support. So if you have to force me, I'll probably pick Deep Walker.
Me, it would be Totem Pole. Get rid of that card. It's stupid. Like we've already got enough to worry about, let alone do you know what I mean? It's Totem Pole is going to make it so that Bark Maiden is the meta. Bark Maiden's going to be the best turn 1 play because you're going to turbo up into a 5 cost, you're going to get to ramp onto that, and your ascend targets still do damage when they're blocked. It needs to go. It's a stupid card. That's just me personally. I think it's going to be when the meta shapes up, I feel like that's a card that's going to be in a lot of decks with the Bark Maiden. But yeah, that's all we've got time for this week, guys. If you guys have a card that you feel shouldn't be being printed in set 4, let us know in the comments below. And yeah, give us a like, give us a subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you next week for episode 5.
Thanks for watching.
Bye, guys. Peace.